I bought a house about 3 years ago now, and when I was shopping for my house, I brought my graphing calculator with me. When I talked to bankers and when I was looking at homes and looking at list prices and that kind of stuff, because I wanted to know, like, what my monthly payments and that kind of stuff are going to be. So let me walk you through this. This could be really helpful too. If you ever go to buy a car and you sit down and they start talking to you about payment plans and that kind of stuff, if you've got your calculator, or they have this app on phones, obviously too. As long as you have the app and you know how to use it, you can make sure that the numbers they're throwing at you are accurate and they're not trying to bamboozle you. Um, so we're not going to go through the beginning example here. This is all designed just to like show you that the mathematics of finance get kind of tricky when you have a situation where you're adding or subtracting money into an account on a monthly basis. You guys all know what interest is, right? So if you have a loan and you have to pay, let's say it's $100 loan and you have to pay 5% interest every month, how many dollars a month are you paying in interest? 5% of 100 would be $5, right? So that $5 is basically the cost that the bank is charging you for giving you some money that you're going to have to pay back. So interest usually gets applied on a monthly basis, and then when you start adding money in, like making payments or taking money out of an account, so that'll be probably more when you get to retirement age, that you might be pulling money out of an account rather than putting it in. Things get tricky, so we're not going to learn like a formula for dealing with this. We're just going to learn how to use this app on the calculator. So if you guys could, hopefully we can all access this now that we're out of test mode. If you hit the apps button on your calculator, there should be several options, but hopefully you have a finance app. If you don't have the finance app, then you're going to need to just share with somebody today. Go ahead and click on that. And they're going to give you some options. Apps, by the way. Yep, apps, sorry, is right here, right next to programs. Several options here. We're going to use the TVM solver. And if you were ever to do this, like I said, if you didn't want to carry your calculator around with you to the car dealerships, you could always download a TVM solver app onto your phone and do it from there. So I got a bunch of numbers punched into mine already. This probably has something to do with home loans or something. I don't know. It's been a while since I've been on here. The trickiest thing about using these apps is knowing what all of the variables stand for. So this is my little cheat sheet. And I'll tell you that if I give you a problem about this on our Chapter 3 test, I will provide this cheat sheet so that you know what all of these things mean. You need to know what the variables represent, but also whether, like, when it's positive and when it's negative. So let's go through and talk about this. So N is going to be number of payments. All right, so typical home loan is 30-year mortgage, and you're making 12 payments per year. So how many payments would that be in for a home loan? 30 years times 12 payments per year, 360 payments. Okay, so this is going to be the number of times that you pay. I% is going to be your interest rate. APR, we'll talk about what that means later on. But if you see an interest rate on a like car commercial, they're usually talking APR. PV stands for present value. So it depends on your situation. It's positive if it's money that you have saved up, if it's your money. It's negative if it's money that you owe to somebody. And this is kind of, present value is kind of the start of the situation. PMT stands for payment. All right, and this is how you're going to be changing your account every month, typically, is what this is. So if you're making payments on a loan, if you're paying money, then it's going to be a positive value. If you're pulling money out of it, this would be like if you're retired and you're pulling money out of your account, then that would be negative. Future value is the value at the end. Now this one, the positive and negative don't really make sense to me, but this is how it is. If it's positive, that's how much you owe at the end. If it's a negative, that's how much money you're going to receive at the end. And then P/Y, C/Y These are kind of for specialized cases. We want those to be 12. Those are going to be 12 for all the applications we're going to do today. Okay. All right, so let's see this thing in action. Anybody have any questions yet? All right, this is old information. I have actually paid off my student loans at this point. I made this many years ago. At the time, though, when I made it, I owed about $13,500 on my student loans. I was getting kind of close to paying them off. So where would that go? That would be my present value. That's my present value. And would it be positive or negative? And let's write our values in here, and then we'll put it in the calculator later. Okay. Is that positive or negative? If I owe $13,500, that's negative. So my PV is negative 13,500. All right. My interest rate is 6.6. That goes in the interest rate, 5%. And you don't have to change it into a decimal. Just put it in as a percentage. It's compounded monthly. We don't need to worry about that. That's kind of where the CY and PY come into place. We're going to use 12 for both of those. How many more monthly payments of 205? So I'm making monthly payments of $205. Where's that going? That's PMT. And is it positive or negative if I'm paying that positive? So 205. So how many more monthly payments of $205 do I have until my loan is paid off? We're going to put a number someplace here. 0, right? When we pay it off, that means my end value is going to be 0. I no longer owe any money. So future value would be 0. So grab your calculator and put some numbers in. Now, if everything's blank, it probably won't let you get off of N unless you put something in. So just put some random number in there for N. But the rest of them, we want to use the information that we just wrote down. 6.6%, negative 13,500, 205, 0, 12, and 12. And if you do have an option at the end, payments, go ahead and do that at the end. Usually you make your payment at the end of the month. It depends on the loan. It can make a small difference. You don't need to put a percentage after, just put the number in. All right. So what this app will do, it's called TVM Solver. If you put in all of the information except for one of these variables, the one that we don't know is N, you can solve for any of these variables as long as you have the rest of them. And the way we do that, you guys are going to want to pay attention. This is a key moment here. Once all your information is in, take your cursor back up to N. That's what we're solving for. Because that's what it was before I started. Okay. I didn't change it. I'm going to let the calculator change it right now. So put your cursor back up to the top. Doesn't matter what yours says right now. We're going to let the calculator solve for the right value. And then you're going to do alpha enter. So how many more payments would I have had at that point to pay off my loan? 82 bucks. Or 82, not $82, 82 payments. 82 payments. How long is that? How many years? How many years is that? Almost 7 years. 7 more years. I got to keep making $205 payments every month. That sounds terrible, doesn't it? All right. So turn it over. At the time, I was like, well, what if I up my monthly payments to $250 instead of $205? That should reduce the amount of time that I've got to pay, right? So what would change in this situation if I updated my monthly payments to $250? The payment would. And just so I've got my other one here and you can see it. I know it's on the opposite page. That's kind of a pain. Everything else would stay the same. The payment's now going to be $250 and everything else is the same. So go ahead and make that change in your app. Change your payment to $250. And go back and do alpha enter on N again and see what's my new N value. Got about 64 months, so 64 full payments and then probably a partial payment at the end. So 65 months instead of 82 months. So I've gone from almost 7 years to I mean, is that good? 5-ish? I think so. So then you might start thinking, now I'm paying more each month, but I'm making fewer payments, right? I'm going to pay it off quicker. Then you might start thinking, well, geez, could I get this down to 4 years? What would I need to do to get it down to 4 years? Well, I'd have to increase my payments even more, right? So what would my payment need to be to get it down to 4 years? Now, if we're going down to 4 years, everything's staying the same. Interest rate's the same. I still owe the same amount of money right now. I don't know what my payment is now, though. What I do know, if I'm going to pay it off in 4 years, is how many payments that is. How many payments is that? 4 years would be how many months are there in 4 years, guys? 48. All right, so let's go back into our app and let's change N. We're going to actually set N this time at 48. And what are we solving for this time? Payments. All right, $320. So $320 a month, I can get it done in 4 years rather than almost 7 years, which is where I was at when I started thinking about this. Now, what do I start thinking about then? Can I afford that extra $115 a month? I mean, that seems like a lot, doesn't it? But maybe I just got a pay bump and I was like, well, I'm making a little bit more, so I could afford a little bit more. So these are the kinds of questions that I was going through at the time. I actually did not decide to bump it up to 320. I think I did the 250. So let's figure out how much I'm going to save in the long run with the $250 payment. So this is kind of interesting. The original one we said was going to be how many payments back in part A? We were making 82 payments at how much? Was $205 a month, right? Can you figure out how much I would end up paying in total for that loan? Feel free to quit out of your app if you need to use your home screen. You can do second mode to quit out. What would I do with 82 and 205 to figure out how much it's going to cost me to pay off this loan? Multiply them. I'm making 82 payments times $205. $16,810. Now, hang on a second. That was only a $13,500 loan. Why am I going to end up paying $16,810? That's the interest. Okay. So yeah, so what happens if I shrink it down to, we said 64 payments, right? 64 payments at $250 a month. Is that less? $16,000 on the money. That's $800 I just saved. Not only $800, a couple of years worth of making payments. So is it worth it to bump up my payments from 205 to 250? That's only $45 a month. I'm going to end up saving $810 and I'm going to get it paid off in 2 years faster than if I would have done it, right? All right. Any questions so far? All right, stick with me here, guys. If you could invest $1,000 at 7.5% interest, all right, let's start filling in some values here. We're going to invest $1,000. What's our cheat sheet say? I'll put the cheat sheet up on the board here. We're going to invest $1,000. So no, that's what we're starting off with. That would be our present value. So $1,000 for our present value. And is it positive or negative? It's positive because it's money that we have saved. Invest $1,000 at 7.5% APR. Okay, that's our percentage, 7.5 for I%. It says how much will we need to put away each month in order to save $50,000 in 15 years? All right, let's talk about the 15 years. How many payments are in 15 years? 180, what'd you do to get that? 15 times 12. Now check it out. You can actually just type 15 times 12 into the app and it'll do the math for you. That's kind of nice. Yeah, yep, little cheat code there. And what about that $50,000? That's how much we're going to have at the end. That's going to be our future value. Positive or negative, though? Positive or negative? This is an investment. Am I going to owe money at the end of an investment, or am I going to get money at the end of the investment? I'm getting money out at the end, so it's actually going to be negative. Seems a little strange to me, but I guess you could think of it as I'm withdrawing at the end $50,000 from the account. The question is, how much are we going to have to sock away? So this would be a situation where you're like, all right, got $1,000 to save, and I want to save up 50 grand to pay for my down payment on my first house. So how much am I going to have to put away? So let me catch up to you guys. I got to get back into my app here and put these numbers in. So I'm going to do 15 times 12. And as soon as you move your cursor off, it'll do that for you. That's 180, 7.5. My present value is $1,000. I don't know what my payment is, so I'll leave that alone for now. I want to take out 50,000 at the end. Go back to payment, do alpha enter. $141.70. So if you wanted to save up $50,000 in that span of time, that's how much you'd have to put away each month if you could find 7.5% interest. All right, this is our last example of the day, and this one is my favorite one. This is no longer applicable. You guys have, some of you have some phones out against my wishes. That's okay. Phones or computers. Someone tell me what's average home mortgage interest rate right now. It is not 4% is gone. I'm sorry to tell you. More. Someone find me average mortgage interest rates. We're looking at a 30-year fixed mortgage. 7 we'll go 7.8. I am so sorry to anybody that's home shopping right now. All right. But there's some, it's bad, but there's some things that we'll talk about here in a minute. Okay. All right. Tell me, guys, how much can you afford to pay for a house? What do you think a reasonable payment would be for a mortgage? How much you guys think you're going to make when you get out of college? What do you think your yearly salary is going to be? How much? Give me a number. 70,000? 90,000? What are you going to be, an engineer? Okay. 40,000? Depends on what you're doing. I'm going 80,000. So hey guys, shh, quiet please. If you make $80,000 a year, how much do you get to actually keep of that? How much do they take out for taxes and insurance, retirement, all that stuff? It's about 30%. So that means you get to keep about 70. So 80,000 times 0.7. So you're actually only going to get paid 56,000. Divided by 12 is your take-home pay is going to be about $4,600. So with $4,600, how much of that is going to go toward your home mortgage? Half? No, you don't want to do that. That's not a good idea. Yeah, because the other expenses add up too. So 1,200, 1,500, something like that. All right, so let's say let's go $1,300. $1,300 a month. How much could you finance a 30-year mortgage at 7.8% APR? So let's talk through this. 30-year mortgage is going to be, well, that's 30 times 12 for our end value, which is going to end up being 360. Our interest rate, sorry folks, 7.8%. Present value, we don't know what that is right now. We're trying to figure out how much money we can borrow. So we're going to solve for that. Our payment's going to be $1,300, but is that positive or negative? We are paying money, that's going to be positive. It's not very intuitive. That's why I will provide this to you on a test. Future value is what? We're going to pay it off. 0. So let's see how much house we can afford. Payment, I don't know yet. 13. Oh no, payment I do know is 1,300. Future value is 0. Present value, drum roll please. So with that kind of financing, we would be able to finance about $180,000 home. Has anybody looked at home prices in Whatcom County recently? That ain't gonna happen. I'm sorry to tell you. Now, hey, don't miss this though. How do down payments? What's a down payment? Like, what does that have to do with this? Yeah. Kinda, yeah, kinda. So if you had $50,000 that you had saved up for your down payment on your first home and you were shopping, how much, what price range would you be looking at? So here's how it works. This $180,000, that's how much you can borrow. If you've got 50,000 of your own sitting in the bank right now, that means you can afford a $230,000 home. You're going to pay for $50,000. You're going to borrow the other $180,000. Now you're going to start out already owning $50,000 worth of that home, which is good. The bank's going to own the rest. And as you make your payments over time, you're going to get that back. So let's do something more realistic. Median home price in Whatcom County, I don't know what it is, but I'm going to guess it's $400,000 to $500,000. So guys, let's figure this out right now. If we were going to actually borrow, let's say $400,000, okay, to be conservative, but we've got $50,000 saved up right now. So how much are we going to borrow? 350,000. All right. And at 7.8% interest, our payment's going to change, right? Can we agree it's going to be a little bit higher? Let's see what our payment's going to be. About $2,500 for right now. Now, so can we afford that on an $80,000 a year salary? Probably not. If you have so then how are you going to afford that? Well, what if you had multiple incomes in that home? So maybe you've got a spouse or a partner, or you do what I did. You take a roommate on for your first year to kind of help out with stuff, and they pay you rent, and you use that money for stuff. All right, you guys ready for the truly shocking thing? This is the big showstopper. Are you ready for this? You're going to make 360 payments of $2,519. How much is this home going to actually cost you over the course of the whole thing? 360 payments times 2519. Let's say 2520. How much did your $400,000 home cost you? 907,000. Actually, it's 957,000 because let's not forget we paid 50,000 for a down payment at the beginning of it. Now, hey, does that seem kind of like where'd that extra $50,000 come? Or sorry, where'd that extra 500,000? Where'd that extra $500,000 come from? That's interest. You actually end up paying more in interest than you do for the actual home. Isn't that crazy? Now, hey, there's good news about this. Don't miss this though, because this is really important. How much do you think that $400,000 home is going to be worth in 30 years? Millions. Yeah, probably. In 30 years, the way that home prices are growing right now, millions. For sure. 30 years ago, you could buy a home in Whatcom County for like $80,000. Yeah, and not too long. I think so. It was going up like crazy for a while, but average home prices increases is like, I want to say like 8% a year. And it was like up to 12 recently. But think of it this way, and we'll learn this. We'll learn this in the next unit. But if you had a $400,000 home, and we increase by, let's say 8%, so I'd multiply by 1.08, right? That's 100% plus 8%, 108% as a decimal, 1.08. And we did that 30 times, so to the 30th power. That home's going to be worth $4 million in 30 years. So is it worth it to pay that extra $500,000 in interest? Heck yeah, yeah. That's nothing compared to what it's going to be worth in 30 years. All right. Yeah. So you don't have to do these problems at the bottom, but they are kind of interesting. So like next time you go to shop for a car and you're thinking about getting onto a payment plan, let me warn you guys, when you go to a car lot and they start talking payment plans, you need to immediately be on your guard, because they're going to ask you how much can you afford to pay per month, and they will come up with, they've got this app, but they've got a more sophisticated version of it. They will come up with a way that you can only pay exactly what you want per month. But what they're going to do is they're going to make it a longer payment period. You might have to pay it off over 7 years instead of 3 years or something like that. So make sure you are armed with the same technology that they have, right? They're going to do everything they can to sell you that car. I'm not going to say they're going to lie to you, but you can fiddle with numbers long enough to make it seem like, oh yeah, I can totally afford this. So the out the door value, well, it's all, yeah, the value starts going down. But on the other hand, a car offers you a service that you can't get around here, right? Like we don't have I mean, we have public transportation here, but it's not as convenient as you might want it to be. So you got to drive something. So you got to think of it too, like what's my monthly cost, right? I've always driven old. If you guys have ever seen my truck, it's not the nicest truck in the world. I drive old vehicles. And it's paid off. My truck is paid off, has been forever, but I still budget $250 a month for that truck, because your brakes go out, there's $1,000. Fuel pump goes off, there's $1,000. And if I ever, that is also going for my down payment on my next one, right?